The video I watched was Delta Nigerian Oil. The first thing that was on this documentary was the statement of how Delta is a dangerous place for white people. The white people who come onto Delta are the ones that usually work in oil production. These white people are the main target for the guerrillian fighters who operate in this area. 27 million people of Iraq, Iraqi, and Ohoni indigenous people live in the Delta, which is broken up into 3,000 communities who live off fish. These communities are dying off because they live on fish, and all their fish and water supply is being polluted by broken oil pumps, which are spilling into the river. They are polluting the communities of Delta's water supply. 80% of natives live on these lands are only living off $1 a day in the Delta, which is the most degraded region in Nigeria. To help these communities, a group was formed called MENS, which stands for Movement for the Emancipation of the N Delta, which made its first appearance in January 2004. One of the main targets of this whole of MENS is Shell, the huge oil and gas company, which profits 45% of the production made in total. MENS has attacked major oil installations, which have caused big damage to oil production. This is an ongoing war that has caused the increase in oil and gas. MEN's goal is to destroy all operations that don't benefit themselves. They do not fear anyone. However, some communities do not support them because they use violence and take hostages during their operations. During a 6-month duration in an operation that they were doing, 29 of the people were kidnapped, and they were only released after they were given what they want during 6 months. The government has acknowledged them, but however, they sent troops and navies to control them. But the government has also attacked Odio on February 19, 2005, destroying the town completely. And their excuse is to control the terrorists and control everybody around them. The government's dictatorship ended in 1999. The new appointed president of Nigeria was Olusegun Obasanjo, who was appointed president of Nigeria, first-time Democratic successor, who was appointed by the people. He won by the overall 60%. However, the people would say that he only won because the higher people appointed him that way. Politicians were the first to introduce guns to MENS members, because MEN members were usually the ones working for politicians, and once they realized what was happening, MEN members formed this group, and once they knew everything about them, they used that against them. Another huge controversy would be the killing of Ken Saro-Wiwa, who was an environmental activist in Nigeria who would use his words to encourage and give knowledge to members of the community to fight for their rights. Without violence, but most of the protests and everything always ended up in violence. But a benefit of all these protests and stuff was EU imposed economic diplomacy extensions for Nigeria, and also the media helped shed light to all the facts that Shell was instructing the actions of the government. So Shell was the big person telling what the government to do because they had so much money invested into Nigeria. After Ken Saro's execution, and Shell stopped their operations on the land of Magoe completely, retiring from the area. So everything stops once after Ken Saro was executed. This oil situation would be called environmental racism, because they're attacking one group specifically, one country specifically, for the use of their oil. And all these people are dying out, and nobody gives the government knows what's happening. Shell knows what's happening, but nobody's doing anything to solve it. Something I found interesting was the fact that Shell said that they spent over $100 million onto community supporting programs, and the only one that they showed us was a ceramic workshop that had no electrical tools or anything, just clay, just handmade stuff that they had to do themselves. And then also that all regions supposedly should have $40 to $50 million invested into them, into the towns, but as you can see by this documentary, that's completely false. So overall, in conclusion, this comes from capitalism, which comes from money and greed. Showed us the big consumer that does not care about the smaller people, so doesn't care about the people that they're hurting or anything to benefit them completely and overall. Shell wants nothing but money and wants their company to grow in total, especially throughout the United States, since we still see it today in like gas stations and everything. However, they do not operate anymore in Nigeria, so that's good. But Shell is feeding the government of Nigeria because all they do is they want greed, so they keep wanting more. And since if they keep on doing this, the oil still is going to be bad for them and everything. So yeah, thanks.